What's up, everybody? Going to answer some very common questions around inspection tools. So first off, as a homeowner or renter or someone who wants to have some of this stuff on hand, I really would recommend these first two. These are a little higher costs and not always going to be needed. So we'll talk through each one and clear up any potential misconceptions and let you know the strengths of these different things. So first off, a bright flashlight. To me, I've found the most amount of issues on inspections with a flashlight. So good lighting is very, very important. You can see in an old Instagram post that I have the difference between a well-lit area and a not well-lit area. It was two pieces of wood, and the one with good lighting or with the flashlight and flash photo showed us some white, gray, green dusting that turned out to be an aspergillus, left behind aspergillus colony. So bright flashlights can be very, very important. Low cost, shows us that dust and different discolorations and hard to reach places. And when you use it at different angles, you can see different areas of the building material that might be warped or water damaged, and then getting into dark places where mold likes to thrive in the dark. So using a bright flashlight is very, very important. Get one, high lumen, and that's a very, very good start for everybody. A moisture meter. So a lot of you guys maybe already have one. You can get a decent one for 50 to 100 bucks. But I know there are kind of like the best ones are going to be much more expensive. I would start just as a homeowner with the low cost one, just to have an idea if you're wanting to check on building material under sinks or whatever it may be. You'll probably have a pin or pinless one. The pin one will literally poke holes into the wood or drywall that you're checking, and it will have a little reading. The pinless one will just go on the surface, and it will read a little bit underneath the surface. The more expensive ones, and one I have that is really good is it goes deeper into the building material to show the moisture content. So that's what it does. It just simply tells us moisture levels within most building materials, not all, but there's different settings, for maybe a concrete setting or a drywall setting and wood setting. So what you want to do first is find a dry standard. So this can be a bit confusing, but for a quick description of it, basically if you're looking in a bathroom and you're wanting to get a dry standard for the wall of drywall, mostly it's going to be between 0% moisture and maybe like 3 to 5% moisture. But the goal is to go to an area that you know for sure is dry, and you find that dry standard of what your moisture reader is looking at and find that baseline. And then as you go and scan the places and it spikes up, you see the differential in the percentage. You don't have to do that as much with drywall, because really anything over 10-12% you want to start looking more. If it's at 18-20%, it's definitely wet, maybe even saturated, needs to be cut out. With wood, it's a little bit different if it's soft wood or hardwood and different areas that way. With tile can be very tough, and so you want to find a dry standard. Different moisture readers will have different settings and numbers, whether they're reading moisture content percentage or have a different way of reading it. So without getting too technical, you do want to find a dry standard, because I've had some areas where you're like, man, everything's at 50. Well, it's not really 50% moisture. That was our dry standard. That was our 0. So when it jumps up to 85, it's the difference, right? 85 and 50, maybe it's 35% or points higher than our dry standard. I hope that makes sense. That is a definite key when using a moisture reader, so that you don't think your entire house is soaking wet if your dry standard happens to be a certain percentage. And this can be based on even metal areas. That's why I wrote it here, is to be aware of metal areas and the setting that you're using. So when you go around a window and it spikes up right at the corner, it's likely because there's metal right there, a metal piece of framing there. Around a shower, maybe there's a metal frame as well, and it's going to spike. That moisture content, really it's finding the metal, and you want to just be, again, aware of what you're doing there, so you don't freak out just if it jumps up, but really to get a good 360 assessment of it. So yeah, that would be something else to look into and to have. And really, you can get a lot done with these two. A lot. If you know what you're looking for, you can really tell a lot. Now, moisture readers will not check if there was previous moisture, obviously. That's pretty obvious. It's only going to check active moisture, but it's important to know that. Thermal imaging. So this can be a little bit overrated by some people, in my opinion. It's not necessary for every homeowner to have. It can be a very high cost investment, and really all it's going to tell you is temperature differentials, temperature contrast. So when you go on something that's warm, it's going to be yellowish or orange, whatever, and you go into something that's cooler, it's going to be that dark blue, maybe even getting to black if it's very, very cold. So all it's showing is temperature differences. When you see in the corner and you scan, in the corner of buildings where the ceiling and wall meet, there's always going to be a little different color there, from the airflow. And if you go over a vent and you see it's cooler because the AC's on, right? So you can really tell a lot of just simply temperature differentials. It may show you, like I found a lot of areas where people are missing insulation. There's a hot spot in the middle of the summer. I was like, wow, there's a big hot spot here. Well, I go up there in the attic, no insulation. So the infrared camera can really show temperature differentials only. It will maybe show active moisture. If it's a good thermal imaging camera, it will show, oh wow, that's like a weird funky looking spot of blue. That may be a cooler zone that could be moisture. That's why you want to use this and then go confirm it with the moisture reader to really confirm if it is moisture or not. These things have fooled me a few times, but it's a very good thing that I would scan most homes with anyway. And then also with the thermal imaging, you just want to have a good idea of where you want to use it, and not putting kind of everything based on just that. Hot and cool zones happen all the time in houses, nothing to really overly freak out about. Maybe not every mold inspector will have one, but it is just something else that might be commonly used. Boroscope. So the Boroscope camera, this is also what a lot of inspectors will use as well. And maybe it's putting a hole in a wall to put the camera into. Maybe it's already finding an area that we really can't reach. What a Boroscope camera is, basically has an extended tube wire with a little camera at the end of it and a little light. So you can literally put it behind into a wall, and then it will show on a little screen here what that camera is finding. So it's an extended camera that goes into behind those different materials there. And it's a way to see those hard to reach areas, and someone who knows what they're doing can really discover a lot behind a wall that we might not be able to see. Now, it will take drilling holes at times, or taking certain things apart in order to get there, but that can be a really good tool. Again, probably not necessary for every homeowner to have, but it's just something else to be aware of as an investigation tool. And if you're curious about stuff behind a wall, maybe you would request that of an inspector or industrial hygienist to use a Boroscope and get behind there. I know a lot of mold issues have been found that way for sure. And yeah, I've liked using it as well. So hope this helps. Really, these are the two key ones for you guys to be using, is the moisture reader and the bright flashlight, in my opinion. That's gonna be the best bang for your buck. And check out my other videos that talks about the inspection process and the importance of that, because alongside of this, after a full inspection, then we get a really good idea of what tests should be taken and why. So hope this helps. See you soon.